Hello everybody, I am Crystal Clear 101. Welcome back to my channel. We have a Transformers toy review, and today is the Transformers Generations Combiner Wars Leader Class Ultra Magnus. Now this figure was released in mid-2015. He is a general release, and his suggested retail is $44.99. Now let's look over some of his packaging. Now first off, on the right hand corner of the box, we do have the Transformers logo, along with the Generations logo in the top right corner of the packaging, along with the Combiner Wars logo, as well as the character name right underneath it, and along with some artwork of Ultra Magnus right above the Combiner Wars logo. Now, as for the reverse side of the packaging, we have a very good shot of Ultra Magnus in his robot mode, as well as a very cool shot of his tractor-trailer mode. It does state that Ultra Magnus himself converts in 25 steps. This does come with Minimus Ambus. It does show him in his robot as well as his vehicle modes, and does state that he converts in 3 steps. And the top left hand corner not only has the name of the character along with his faction emblem, but also does have a brief little bio about the character itself. The English portion reads, "The legend of Ultra Magnus is exceeded only by the legend of Optimus Prime. When Ultra Magnus was lost, the forces of justice would not let a warrior of his caliber fall. Minimus Ambus, using the power of his rare load-bearer spark, enables Ultra Magnus to fight on." And now with the packaging for Ultra Magnus shown, let's go ahead and open them up and see just how cool this figure really is. And now let's get a better look at Ultra Magnus. First off, let's go ahead and give a 360 of the figure itself. Now, this is another one of those figures that I've actually been really excited about. Now, there's some things about this figure I love, and then there's some things about this figure that I don't care for. Now, let me go ahead and tell you the things I actually do like about this figure. Number one is he's actually a good size for a leader class. Now, up to the very top of his shoulders, which are off camera, he stands in right at 11 inches tall, so it's a fairly big figure. Number two, it's the fact that I know this is supposed to be a IDW version of Ultra Magnus, but to me, this does bear enough of the G1 character for me to warrant getting it, because I have not been keeping up with the comic. I'm going to be honest with you, I have not been reading the comic, so I don't know exactly everything about the history of this particular version of the character. But even though it's an IDW version, I do see enough of a G1 Ultra Magnus for me to warrant picking it up. Another thing I do like is his transformation. While it is a little intricate as far as transforming him goes, it is not complicated. It's a little more complex, but it's not difficult. We're not talking Masterpiece Megatron here, or Revenge of the Fallen Optimus Prime. We're talking like an actual fun transformation for this figure. And to go along with that is the fact that he is a car carrier. Is the fact that both the cab and the trailer are both incorporated into his transformation. So there is no separate piece to keep up with. Everything, other than his weapons and his missile pods, everything is in one package. So that's always good. Another thing I do like is I like his color pattern. For me, his color pattern is just straight up eye-catching. Now, on my camera, it looks like a standard blue, but actually it's like a slightly lighter shade of blue than that. But the way it's done up, it's very eye-catching. It is hard to not look at this figure. It's really that eye-catching. I guess you could say overall the colors for this figure are striking. Especially for a standard, general release. The colors are very eye-catching. Another thing is he does come with a couple of accessories. He does come with a couple of handheld weapons. He does come with a pair of his missile pods, which are a staple of the character. And I'll show in a moment, but you can actually combine all these, actually form a hammer, which for one reason or another has been a staple of this character since anime came out in 08. Another thing I do like is his articulation. He does have very, very good articulation. I absolutely love the number of poses I can have this character in. And especially when you get his hammer put together, just the extra little bit of articulation makes him look that much cooler, because you can pull off so many different poses with this figure. And if I had to give any kind of real negatives, number one, this figure for me was very hard to find. But now I'm actually starting to find him more and more readily available. If I had to give another complaint, it's really not so much the figure, it's a little bit about the history of this particular version of the character, which is, this is not the true Ultra Magnus. This is basically a shell. Yes, I said it's a shell. And what I mean by that is that this does come with an additional figure. First off, flip down the chest piece. We see the very front of the trailer tab. Now to open this, just start off with the side that has the Autobot emblem. Pull it out to the side. And pull out the other side, flip up the head. As you can see, we have another figure in here. This would be Minimus Ambus. And let me go ahead and remove the figure itself. But as you can see, it's essentially a cockpit. It's a cockpit for a robot. It's basically a robot piloting a mech. Which, to me, I find very odd with a Transformer. Now, with this being moved to the side, now here's the actual Minimus Ambus figure. Now, I don't know too much about the story about Minimus Ambus or about this version of Ultra Magnus. This is all that I pretty much know. Which is, there was an Ultra Magnus at one point in time on Cybertron. He was a law enforcer. He ended up getting killed. And in order to keep the legend going, Minimus Ambus basically created a full-size suit of the original Ultra Magnus. In order to keep the whole mythos about Ultra Magnus going, he pilots him. He basically does everything for Ultra Magnus. That's basically what I understand about the character. But this is its own individual little figure. He does have some transformation. It does some articulation. He does transform. It's really simple. It's almost Minicon simple. Now, as far as his transformation goes, it's simply this. If he'll cooperate with me. Simply pull up his backpack, like so. Flip his feet in, fold his feet in. And basically tuck his arms into the side. That is it. That is his transformation. And as you can see, it's a very simple little car. But the design-wise, it is actually really cool. It is a nicely detailed little bit car. Now, as far as the Ultra Magnus itself is concerned, let me go ahead and flip all this back. There we go. Now, if I had to give another complaint, and for me, this is a little bit more of a legitimate complaint I actually do have about this figure, which is, while he does have articulated fingers, which I do like. I like it whenever a Transformer does have articulated fingers, where you can open them and close them. His weapons, on the other hand, wow, I do like the design of some of these, especially this one right here. Now, you figure with it being able to actually grip the weapon, that makes it easier for the pose, right? Wrong. It actually, for me, makes it harder for him to actually keep that weapon in hand. Now, if you just leave him standing like so, then it's not a problem. It's when you actually go to actually move the actual arm itself. As you can see, it flops right out. Now, the main complaint I have is that there's really no slot inside the hands for him to actually hold and grip the weapon itself properly. Now, mostly, if I'm not mistaken, just about every Masterpiece Transformer for the handheld weapons, there is actually like a little slot for you to actually peg it into his hand, close it, and he'd actually be able to grip the weapon securely. I wish they would have incorporated something like that with this version of Ultra Magnus. Because while this figure does look awesome, it's just the fact of getting him to actually hold his weapons and then be able to actually move them around, for me, is a bit of an issue. Now, I just wish that he would have actually been able to hold those weapons. But other than that, it was very cool. Now, to make his hammer, simply put, take this rifle, this little peg right here, simply plug it in like so. Then we take the missile pods, like so. As you can see, there's peg holes on either side of this rifle. Simply just plug them in. There we go. There is essentially his hammer. And for me, this is almost reminiscent of the hammer, well, kind of reminiscent of his hammer he used in Animated. Granted, it was more like an actual hammer. Now, it looks like he wouldn't be able to actually grip it too terribly well, but now while you see he does have a little swivel for the shoulders, he does actually have a hinge base, which does give him extra added articulation. And for me, this makes it so much easier to have him in some really cool poses with this hammer. Alright. Now, you didn't have... This is really about the main pose I generally have him in with this hammer, which is this pose right here. Not to mention, just full around the legs. And he looks like he's getting ready to bash in a Decepticon. That is one thing I will say about this figure, is that all this extra little bit of articulation makes him that much cooler. Now, you gotta admit, to have an Ultra Magnus that be able to wield a hammer like this, that is both impressive, and to some degree, that is also sick. That just looks flat out sweet. Now, as far as the transformation for this figure is concerned, well, let's go ahead and dive into that, shall we? Now, to start off Ultra Magnus' transformation, first off, we have to remove the missile pods, we have to remove both of his handheld weapons, and, most importantly, we have to remove the Minimus Ambus figure that would have been in here. Now, the first part of the transformation, flip down this chest piece, and the side that has the Autobot emblem. First off, let me raise up his head. Pull that section out first. Then, fold in the head, top of the cab. Alright, now this piece is snugly secured, so there we go. Rotate the cab 180 degrees. It'll simply peg in there. Then, simply slide this forward. And here, we have the cab for the tractor trailer. Now, simply lift up the chest piece for a moment. Lift the legs up like so. The waist will fold down like so. Now, I'm going in no particular order on this. I'm just going with how I would transform them. Now, these red pieces back here, simply fold them out like so. Next, they will simply fold out. And these are going to end up forming the sides of the tractor trailer. Alright. For now, these pieces are going to be off to the side. Next, we're going to fold in the feet, like so. Now, this chest piece right here does fold into the very bed of the cab itself. And as you can see, this is about how it's supposed to look. Next, we can go ahead and fold up the shoulders like so. Close up the fist if they're open. Next, this piece simply comes around, extends like so. Again. It stands up like so. Next, we go ahead and flip up the shoulders like so. Although I will go ahead and say that these pads right up here, they do go into these little pads on either respective side of the transformation. So, in other words, this one will go in here like so. This will simply snap into place. Let me readjust my camera, 1 second. Alright, there we go. This should be much easier now. Now, these little pads right here will go into these holes in their respective side. Alright. And last but not least, these pieces will go in. Matter of fact, this pad hole will go into this pad right here. And there we have Ultra Magnus' car carrier mode. Now, let's take a look at the tractor trailer mode. First off, this is a very impressively done tractor trailer mode. The fact that we're able to actually incorporate this entire transformation into both this tractor trailer mode, that along with the cab, that turns into the actual classic style Ultra Magnus. To me, this is just cool. This is just impressive. And the fact that you can still fully turn the cab on the trailer, it has full clearance. That is just nice. Now, he does overall feature 10 wheels, and he does actually roll very well. Now, obviously, there's going to be some wheels that will touch the ground, some that won't. But what makes this figure even better is, number one, he does feature storage for all of his weapons. Because they're basically the same pads that you would use when he's in his robot mode. So, you can have a fully armed up Ultra Magnus, like so. Basically you can have him fully ready for combat. And, just like with the original, he is a little car carrier. Now, while you can store deluxe figures on him, the only problem is you can't store too terribly many. As you can see, I have Crosscut right here, and I'm only able to get one in the bottom. And even then, as tall as this figure is, he barely makes it in. Alright, so right there on the very top. Now, the only way you can honestly store more figures is if you go with little Legends class figures. Even then, you might be lucky to get two of these in here. Again, maybe two Legends class figures on either the top portion or the bottom portion of the trailer. But, you know, just the fact you can actually still have him haul other characters around, it's a very nice little feature. And just like with the original G1 toy, he does feature a functioning ramp. My only complaint is that you cannot lock these pieces in to become one piece. That is like my primary complaint here. And also, just untap a little bit, and you can have him angle it down so a figure can roll right out. But for me, this is probably one of my favorite Ultra Magnus figures that's come out since Generation 1, really. I mean, yeah, there's been a few Ultra Magnus figures that have come out before this, but honestly, none of them have really gotten my attention quite like the original G1. If you want me to give you my personal opinion, for me, this is probably one of the best post-Generation 1 Ultra Magnuses that you can get. I mean, even compared to the original Ultra Magnus, this is basically everything in one. The fact that you don't have to keep up with a separate headpiece, the fact you don't have to keep up with the cab or the trailer, the fist, for that matter. The fact that with the exception of the missile pods and the handheld weapons, you really don't have to keep up with anything. Now, if I had to give any minor little complaint, and I do mean really minor, is the fact that other than the trailer, there's really no storage for Minimus Ambush on Ultra Magnus. I mean, I would have kind of liked to have been able to store him like within the actual cab itself, but because otherwise, he just kind of sits, kind of a little rinky dink in the trailer. But overall, the transformation is not complex. Yeah, I mean, it's a little involved, but it's not complicated. It's actually a fun transformation. For me, when I actually transform this, it's like I'm actually transforming a Transformer. I mean, to me, this feels like a Transformer. This makes me think of a true Transformer. And if you give me my opinion, just this transformation alone is enough to sell me on Ultra Magnus. Now for some size comparisons of Combiner Wars Ultra Magnus. Here he is next to the Combiner Wars Voyager class Optimus Prime, Combiner Wars Voyager class Cyclonus, and last but most certainly not least, Combiner Wars Leader class Megatron. Weapons and accessories for Combiner Wars Ultra Magnus include 2 handheld rifles and 1 pair of missile pods, 1 for each shoulder, all of which can be combined to form a hammer. Articulation for Combiner Wars Ultra Magnus consists of a swivel head, swivel shoulders with a hinge base, swivel hinge elbows, hinge fingers, swivel hinge hips, swivel thighs, hinge knees, and hinge ankles. And articulation for Minimus Ambush consists of ball-jointed shoulders, ball-jointed hips, and hinge knees. And overall, what are my thoughts on the Combiner Wars Ultra Magnus? Overall, this is a fantastic figure. Aside from my few little complaints I do have, this is actually an excellent representation of Ultra Magnus. Now, if you cannot afford to get the Masterpiece version of this character, which I do intend on having at some point, then this makes for a great substitute. I mean, yeah, it's not exactly G1 Ultra Magnus, but there is still enough of a G1-ish Ultra Magnus here to warrant picking up. The articulation is great. The transformation is fun. It's intricate. It feels like a Transformer. And overall, it is just a flat-out fun figure. So if you can go find this particular figure, go get him. And if you can afford to find the Takara version of this figure, which is Transformer Legends, I'm trying to remember, LG14, then I highly recommend picking up that one. Speaking of which, I will be having a review on LG14 here before too much longer. But this will wrap up my review on the Transformers Combiner Wars Leader Class Ultra Magnus. Be sure to rate, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.